June 26, 2019,
Okay.
Keelan. I'm so sorry. I wrote your name down like 20 times trying to remember it earlier. I know so many K-A-L names. I'm sorry. Keelan. Please call the roll.
Of course. Fish.
Here.
Hardesty.
Here.
Fritz.
Here.
Wheeler. Udaly.
I'm here halfway. Okay. Thank you. Do we read the rules of decorum in the afternoon session too?
Always, because otherwise, how would we know? Sorry.
Will our city attorney please read the rules of decorum
As quickly as possible.
for the 5 people who are in chambers, all of whom I think work for the city?
You never know.
You could sing them if you want to kind of jazz
Yeah.
things up.
Not today.
Okay, all right, it was worth a try.
Welcome to the Portland City Council. The City Council represents all Portlanders and meets to do the city's business. The presiding officer preserves order and decorum during City Council meetings so everyone can feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe. To participate in council meetings, you may sign up in advance with the council clerk's office for communications to briefly speak about any subject. You may also sign up for public testimony on resolutions or the first readings of ordinances. Your testimony should address the matter being considered at the time. If it does not, you may be ruled out of order. When testifying, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. Please disclose if you're a lobbyist. If you're representing an organization, please identify it. The presiding officer determines the length of testimony. Individuals generally have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When you have 30 seconds left, a yellow light goes on. When your time is done, a red light goes on. If you're in the audience and would like to show your support for something that is said, please feel free to do a thumbs up. If you want to express that you do not support something, please feel free to do a thumbs down. Please remain seated in council chambers unless entering or exiting. If you are filming the proceedings, please do not use bright lights or disrupt the meeting. Disruptive conduct, such as shouting, interrupting testimony, or council deliberations will not be allowed. If there are disruptions, a warning will be given that further disruption may result in the person being ejected for the remainder of the meeting. After being ejected, a person who fails to leave the meeting is subject to arrest for trespass. Thank you for helping your fellow Portlanders feel welcome, comfortable, respected, and safe.
Thank you. We will begin with our first time certain. Keelan, will you please read item 638?
Authorize an intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County for the Revenue Division of the Bureau of Revenue and Financial Services to administer the Multnomah County business income tax.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Jennifer Cooperman, Chief Financial Officer. I'm here for Thomas Lanham, who is homesick, and I'm sure is watching this on video. So the item before us today is a one-year extension of the current city-county intergovernmental agreement for the city to collect the Multnomah County business income tax. The only significant change from the current 5-year IGA is a 5% increase in compensation to the city. This new compensation level is $1.35 million. I should say that the current IGA expires on June 30th of 2019, which is why we are here for you with a one-year extension. And the county commission approved this IGA last week. The city council's adopted budget for fiscal year 1920 included 2 budget notes pertaining to city and county cost sharing around tax collection. The county should be paying more for the base service that we are providing to them, about $1.3 million more than they do now. And we also believe that they should be paying for its share of the new integrated tax system project. Their share of the ITS project is estimated at about $1.9 million over 10 years, and then drops to $1.3 million each year thereafter. So we are asking for a one-year extension to the IGA to continue negotiating with the county for an increase in their cost sharing at the end of this one-year agreement.
Thank you. Sorry, got a little discombobulated here. Colleagues, any questions for Ms. Cooperman? No. Is there any testimony?
No one signed up.
All right. this is an emergency item, so Keelan, please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Hardesty.
Aye.
Fritz.
Thank you for your very succinct and accurate information. Aye.
Udaly.
Thank you for that. I vote aye. The ordinance is adopted. Let's move on to the consent agenda, please. First of all, have any items been pulled since the last time I asked you
No.
that question? Fantastic. Please call the roll on the consent agenda.
Fish.
Aye.
Hardesty.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye. The consent agenda is approved. Keelan, can you please read item 641?
Extend contract with Motivate International, Inc. for the continued operation of the bike share system not to exceed $14,780,000.
Biketown has become an important part of our transportation system and is helping us reach our goals to reduce congestion, carbon emissions, and increase the availability of low-cost forms of transportation. Here to explain the contract and its many benefits is PBOT staff Steve Hoyt-McBeth, the section manager for the Active Transportation and Safety Division. Steve, take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner Udaly, and good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Steve Hoyt-McBeth. I'm the program manager for the Biketown, the city's bike share program. I'd like to provide some context for today's council item before I kind of go into the actual request itself. We are preparing to release an RFP this summer to expand Biketown to new neighborhoods, hopefully that will include the entire city, and to incorporate electric assist bicycles. We don't expect that new system will be up and running until the spring of 2020, potentially with a new operator, because the RFP hasn't been released yet, so we don't know that. So the administrative actions that I'm requesting of you today allow Portlanders to have a continuous bike share service during this transition from our current system through to that new system. And to do that, we also need to increase the contract value of the contract. In March of this year, we had the pleasure of presenting to you with our community partners at Street Roots, Kerr Bikes, who operates our Adaptive Biketown program, our main sponsors, Nike and Kaiser Permanente, our 2018 annual report. That was really a great opportunity for us to spend a lot of time in front of council with our larger program team. Let me, if I could, just give some high-level summaries from that presentation and just about Biketown in general. Biketown is a city-owned program, just like Portland Streetcar and Portland Tram. In 2018, both of our equity programs, Biketown for All, which serves people living on low incomes, and Adaptive Biketown, which is aimed at providing increased bicycle access to people with disabilities, doubled their ridership from the previous year. And Biketown as a whole saw a 28% increase in ridership. And in 2019, our ridership numbers have actually continued to increase over those 2018 numbers. Biketown is funded through a unique sort of contractual and financial arrangement where Motivate, our operator, is only paid for its operation of the system based on the revenue that comes into the system, whether that be through user revenues from people who use the system or from our sponsorships, which are primarily the Nike and Kaiser Permanente agreements. So, as I mentioned earlier, we were preparing to release an RFP this summer for a larger and more expanded bike share system that will reach more neighborhoods and with, hopefully with electric, not hopefully, it will include electric assist bicycles. We're really excited about the electric assist bicycle piece of this because we think it's really going to make a difference not only for people in general and making bike share and bicycling more attractive to more people, but from an equity perspective as we move the system out into East Portland and other areas, hopefully in Southwest as well with the hills, an electric bike component will really make biking more viable for people. Trips tend to be longer the further we get from the city center, so that having that electric piece is more important, and if there are hills involved, obviously the electric piece helps as well. So as I mentioned before, this ordinance helps create a smooth transition between the existing system that is operated under our current contract with Motivate and the new expanded electric bike system, which will launch in spring of 2020. So today I'm requesting your approval for two actions within the one ordinance. One is to extend the term of our current contract with Motivate International until April 30th, 2020. The term is currently set to expire this August. And I think I've already said enough about extending the contract will help us provide that transition between the current contract and our new contract. And the second requested action is to increase the contract value to $14.7 million. This is would be an increase in $3.4 million from our current contract. If the council votes today, to extend Motivate's contract from the term, staff estimate that cost to be at $3.4 million. And the contract value here, just to make sure that I'm being clear, reflects the total that Motivate is paid through the whole length of that contract. So starting from 2013, when that contract was enacted by approval by council, to its end date, which would, in this scenario of your approval, would be through April of 2020. And so just in terms of over the life of the contract, the three main costs of this contract, in case you were wondering, are the capital costs for us to launch that system. That was about $4 million. Sponsorship finder fees. So Motivate brokered both of our major sponsorship agreements with Nike and Kaiser Permanente, and as part of the agreement that we had established prior to those sponsorships, they receive a finder's fee on the payment that goes towards them. That's about $1.5 million that we pay to date. And then the largest piece of this is our monthly operation of the system. It's a monthly operation fee, which is tied to the number of bicycles that are in operation during that previous month of that invoice. And so, again, I just want to make sure that I'm clear that our contract explicitly limits payment to Motivate for Biketown operations to the private sponsorship revenues and the Biketown operations. And an affirmative vote by council today will not have an impact on the city budget passed by council. Thank you very much for your consideration today and for your past support of Biketown.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions? Commissioner Fritz?
Thank you. Do we know if the sponsorships are going to continue?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Fritz. So I guess the honest answer is we don't. In terms of the term of those contracts, the Nike agreement goes through July of 2021. The Kaiser Permanente agreement is also a 5-year agreement, but it began a year later. So actually, it sunsets, I'm almost positive, in November of 2021. However, with the Nike agreement, we have a clause in that contract that says that the year previous to the end of that contract, so next summer, we will present an offer to them about extending that agreement, and then we have kind of a period of time in which we go into if they express an interest, we go into a kind of a period where we don't negotiate with anyone else. So it's certainly our intent to try to extend that agreement when that expires, and also to have a different financial arrangement in terms of how that money would flow with our agreement. So as opposed to in a new agreement, we are not going to broker that through a third party. We intend to broker that ourselves so that we would receive the money would go directly to the city as opposed to go through a finder's fee as it does currently.
Okay,
Which is more than you asked, but I'm sorry.
No, I was about to ask some follow-up questions. Still have a couple. I momentarily lost them though. Commissioner Hose, did you want to take a turn, and I'll remember?
Thank you. I was not going to ask a question, but your question led me to my question. And my question has to do with what are the benefits of sponsorship to Biketown for these corporations who choose to do so?
Thank you for that question, Commissioner Hardesty. I think that some of it I can only say what both we propose as part of the value to them, and also what I anticipate that is. I think that on the barest kind of more from just a pure marketplace sort of piece of it is that it's a piece of real estate. I don't mean to start in the coldest terms possible, but it is often when the valuation process is done on sponsorships for whether it be a city asset such as bike share or a stadium naming rights, they look at kind of what the kind of ad value is of that piece. So that I think a piece of that is just a place to show your brand and to show some messaging. We are in Portland. We have been more protective of our public assets in terms of advertising and sponsorship. So actually that has helped to increase the value of that in terms of what we have done with Biketown. For Nike, I can tell you what they have expressed to us and that they feel, and what they have presented when they were here in March, was that they feel that, Portland is part of their community and part of their neighborhood. They refer within the foundation that funds Biketown as the backyard project. So it's really the sense of like, we live here, we work here. There's over 5,000 Nike employees who live in the city of Portland. So there's a real tie there with them. For Kaiser Permanente, I'm sorry, I'll try to be short. Kaiser Permanente, they have an existing kind of marketing focus and which I think also kind of circulates back to their values of physical activity and trying to look at that in a way that's less clinical, but more about how you integrate health into people's everyday life. So the Biketown sponsorship, I think, was an extension of what they've done with Sunday Parkways, which is looking at ways to try to normalize health with people.
And one last follow-up question. And so under the new contract, because like right now, the swoosh is on every Biketown bike.
That's correct.
And I don't remember if Kaiser Permanente has a logo on those bikes as well.
They do not. The Kaiser's sponsorship is expressed in terms of visually through on 25 of the station panels. So you will see on the bottom quarter of the station panel, there's a Kaiser Permanente piece, and then we do a lot of marketing. But the bicycle has been a piece that we have held only with one sponsor, which is both because of the strength of the sponsorship agreement. Nike really wanted to have the bike as their sole piece, and also there was a lot of concern both among our leadership, both at Peabody and at the city, that we didn't want the bikes to look like a NASCAR sort of bike, and so that was
That was actually where I was headed. And so, which means that the one logo that would be on there is worth a lot more than would be if you had 20 logos on it. And so I hope in the renegotiations that we understand the power of our position and
Yes.
make sure that that's a beneficiary agreement. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
So I did remember my other questions. One of them is the city neither benefits nor loses financially with this program. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm sorry, just make sure that I mean, it's not that we don't, I want to make sure that I'm answering your question completely correct. My time on this project is not covered through the sponsorship money. It's covered through GTR, but the operation, the money we pay Motivate is purely through those two sources, and we are insulated from a risk. So as per your direction and Commissioner Saltzman's and Commissioner Fish's, when the original vote happened, if there's not enough money in this bike share revenue account that is on the slide, then Motivate is not paid beyond that amount.
I appreciate the detail of your response that you're paid through gas tax revenue, but you actually made me remember a third question, because there was a lot of discussion about helmets, and I
Yes.
was concerned to see that one of the images showed somebody who did not appear to have a helmet.
Yes.
Have we made any progress on the whole helmet issue?
You know, Commissioner, you demonstrated a lot of leadership back in 2011 and required that we have, as part of that original contract, a provision that our contractor Motivate would explore a helmet vending operation. So excuse me for this, another long answer, but the short answer is we have not made progress on having a real-time, something that's available in real time for somebody with a helmet, which I think is really the challenge with a shared mobility service. We pursued negotiations with a vendor that proposed to have a helmet vending solution. We were looking to incorporate that into our kiosks that we have, and then that company went bankrupt. And we have yet to see anybody else enter the marketplace. I do think that this moment when we come back with the new RFP will be an opportunity to, again, look either through our bike share operators or through others to see if there is anyone else who comes to market, or if there are other solutions out there.
So thank you for that answer. Potentially, obviously the parade and event season has started for the summer, and I've noticed the scooter companies have been tabling and have been giving out helmets. I wonder if there's an opportunity for some collaboration between Motivate and the scooter companies, because they both face the same challenges, and sooner or later somebody is going to get seriously injured by riding either a bike or a scooter without a helmet. So that's not a question, it's more of a suggestion to see if they could collaborate together. And then my final question is related to scooters and the placement, you mentioned that expanding the bike stations to Southwest, potentially with some e-bikes. Hopefully that would include at the transit centers, or the transit center in Southwest.
Yes.
And I would hope, again, that there would be some collaboration so that there could be options for people who would rather scooter than bike in Southwest and in other areas of the city which have previously not been served at all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really still looking for my silver scooter opportunity.
Well, thank you, Steve. I want to take this chance to let anyone who might be listening, or remind anyone who might be listening, that unlike bikes, when you ride a scooter, you are required by law to wear a helmet. So if you're not wearing a helmet, you are breaking the law. It might seem arbitrary, because you can certainly ride 15 miles an hour or faster on a bicycle, but our laws say if it's motorized and it's not an e-bike, you have to wear a helmet. All right. Keelan, any public testimony?
No one signed up.
This is an emergency item. Keelan, please call the roll.
Fish.
This has been a good discussion. Thank you for answering all the council questions that came up. I think we know where we stand. I'm pleased to support the ordinance, the contract. Aye.
Hardesty.
I also want to add my thanks. I appreciated you making time to come by my office and answer my really hard questions. And I think that this is, we're moving in the right direction, and I'm looking forward to having bicycles in East Portland, which is not something that we've had any opportunity to participate in. And so I am happy to vote aye.
Fritz.
I'm struck with how different this is from when we first passed the ordinance. And congratulations for that. It's, in this case, I think it's definitely a good thing that it's much less controversial and has become more of a way of life. Just as Commissioner Udaley took the opportunity to remind people that riding with helmets is mandatory in some instances, we also want to remind people that riding bicycles on sidewalks downtown is not allowed, and riding scooters on sidewalks anywhere is not allowed. And again, that seems very arbitrary, but that's the rule. So if people, they say this is the reason we can't have nice things. If people continue to break the rules, then there will be a problem, and then they will no longer be able to have the nice thing of the bikes and scooters. And so I really encourage everybody to be part of a community that reminds each other of what those rules are, because it's all about shared space and it's about safety. And therefore, I will not be riding the scooters until I have my bicycle helmet in my bag and until one appears at the Barber Transit Center, which I'm really looking forward to at some point. And I appreciate all your work on this. Was happy for the part that the Parks Department and I paid in getting this sponsorship going and in the initial phase. Aye.
Udaley.
Well, thank you for your presentation, Steve. I'm really excited about these the upcoming RFP and contract negotiations. I think we've learned a lot in the last several years, and we know that we can probably ask for more and hold companies to a higher standard that want a share of our public assets. I'm very excited that bike share is going to be more broadly and equitably implemented across the whole city, and I'm pleased to vote aye. The ordinance is adopted, and we are adjourned.